Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Internet Dads. I'm here with my fellow dad, Rory Jennings. How are you?
Yeah, not good.
Not good?
No, not good. Not really.
Are you just going to get, is that your stock answer now for the next 6 months?
Maybe. I hope not. I hope to arrive full of the joy of spring.
I think one day I'm hoping you're going to just be like, I'm great. I'm really, really good.
No, it's got to the stage now. I'm like totally nocturnal, but also awake now,
Yeah.
which effectively means I am just awake.
You're going to be...
Yeah, it's just I am now just awake.
You're going to pay for this at some point. I was thinking about this earlier, which is like this is going to sound ridiculous, but we talked about it last episode when we had Alex on. You know, for a good 10-year period when me and Al were working together, we had quite strange hours. So we used to work to stay up until like 2, 3 a.m. Well, I would stay up to 2 or 3 a.m. Sometimes working late, sometimes like working till 10, 11, then a little bit of TV time, whatever. So I'd get up. So to the point where until recently, the hashtag United staff hours have always been 10:30 till 6, because when the office used to be in my house, I didn't want anyone
getting there until half 10. Yeah.
So we never changed them until recently. We realised, but obviously with kids now, I almost never get up later than 7.
No.
Sometimes earlier if he gets me up, but I was like, sorting everything out this morning, and then I was just in my office doing some work at like 5 to 8, and I remember thinking like, 25-year-old Spencer would be so confused by the fact that I'm sitting at a computer at 5 to 8.
Do you know what? It's the sleep. But you spoke about an office there. I find the sleep the killer. Like if there is one thing that is so difficult about having children, it is the lack of sleep. Like if I could have 8 hours a night, I think I find every other challenge totally bearable.
Everyone's different, aren't they? I think the word is chronotypes, is it? You have these different types, and they use animals, to categorize you. So you can be a bear, you can be a wolf. I can't remember
probably
the
a
other
lion.
Animals. Yeah. Well, you'll know what you are based on your habits. So basically, if you like to stay up late, naturally.
No.
So that's what
I'm asleep at 9:30.
So I think that's the wolf. What my one is, you stay up late and you want to sleep in.
Right.
Yours might be a bear. You go to bed early. I can't remember what they all are. There's 2 others, but the idea is that, and I certainly subscribe to this school of thought for a period, is that you just are what you are. So for years, I was like, no, I go to bed late, and I'm good at working late. I'm rubbish in the mornings. You can change it. You definitely can change it. You have to be forced to. And children make you change it because they aren't staying up. They aren't staying up late and getting up late. But it does take time. The other thing that I think people have is like, they used to say that Margaret Thatcher slept 4 hours a night. That was her thing, which is definitely not good for you. No. And we're obviously way more schooled on the importance of sleep now in society. There's a lot of health benefits to it, obviously. But for me, like if I don't have 8 hours, which I never do anymore, if I get 7, that's decent. Like, I notice it. I know people that can do 6 and they're operating at such a high level. No. I can't. I genuinely, if I have 6 hours, I will be really lagging at some point. I'm with you. And that's with coffees.
Yeah, I know. I'm completely with you. I love sleeping. It's something I'm really good at as well. Kind of found my niche.
Perfected it.
I'm so good at sleeping. Yeah, I'm like excellent, and I'm just not getting to do it at the moment. But that could all change, because you know what was going on in my house today as I left?
What?
The garden is, the guys are there. I'm having an office built in the garden, and I've got a sofa in it, and the sofa turns into a bed.
So you're going to be working.
I'm moving out. I'm moving out of my house. I'm living in the garden.
Oh, and how long's that been like?
I'm like Stig of the dump.
Is that going to take a long time to? What sort of contraption are we talking? Like,
mate, they do it so quickly.
Is it one of these pre-made things?
They do it so quickly. Yeah, I think so. I mean, they came around today and they kind of dug it and put concrete on the floor.
Nice.
They're coming around again in about a week and they're going to build it, and then they come around one more time and they put the internet and the heating in, and that's it.
You're gonna be laughing, mate.
It's amazing. I'm going to live in it.
You're never going to see this face again.
No, you will never. You won't see my arse for dust. I'm going to be living in my garden. And I will pop in to make the odd coffee and have a shower.
Something we didn't talk about with Al on last week, which I know she wanted us to, and we forgot, is the fact that like me and Al have not really shared a bedroom for years.
No.
And that is, I remember when her brother, who we mentioned has got 4 kids, that they did the same thing. And I remember we used to think that was so weird, they don't share a bed and all that. Honestly, we have not, like, maybe the odd night here and there when the kids allow us to, if we go on holiday and we get everyone in the same bed or something. But like, that's gone a step further now. So for a lot of pregnancy and even post-pregnancy, because Al's doing most of the work with the youngest, who's getting up in the night, and I'm sorting out the oldest, I've slept in the spare room, right? Yeah. But then what happens is, like at Christmas, for example, if we've got like her mum staying with us or something, then my little boy's got his own room, and you just run out of room, basically. And once we've got the youngest in his little nursery, then will I have enough space again? But basically, long story short, what I did recently is I bought a single bed for my office. So my office isn't in a separate part of the house. It's in the house, but it's a little extension at the side. But I spend so much time in there. It's quite a big room. It used to be the hashtag office. We used to have like 5 people working out of there. It's been lots of different things. I used to have all the esports boys living in there, had multiple beds in there. Now it's like my desk, I've got a football table, I've got a Peloton, it's my little man cave.
Yeah, and a single bed.
I went and bought a single bed.
Mate, amazing. I'm so
decent
jealous.
Little mattress. And I've just turned it into my little grind room where I'll work late and I'll go straight to bed and I'll like make myself get up in the morning, roll out of bed straight to work.
Yeah.
Like trying to almost get in that university like grind mentality.
Yeah.
Even though I've got a double bed because no one else is staying with us. I've got a double bed upstairs I could sleep in and I'm choosing to sleep in the single
I've
one.
got this at the moment, right, with the sleeping arrangement. When Victoria got to about 7 months pregnant, 6-7 months, I stopped sleeping in our bed.
Yeah.
Because she bought this massive pillow that basically meant I couldn't fit and it was just mental. I just got out of there. Now, because of Pandora, we're dividing and conquering. Sometimes it's my night, sometimes it's Victoria's night. So obviously when it's my night, I take Pandora into the spare room.
Yeah.
And when it's Victoria's night, I don't want to be anywhere near it, so I'm in the spare room. I never want to go back.
I know.
I never ever want to go back, and I don't know how I'm going to proceed. I don't know. I imagine that Victoria probably doesn't want me back, but it feels like a very difficult conversation.
It's one of those things you don't want to admit when you've been together for a long time. It's such a I know Alex really struggled with the idea of us not sleeping in the same bed at first, and after a while I was just like, should we just admit it's better?
Yeah.
Like you still have your intimacy.
Yeah, mate. I'll pop in. I'll pop next door for a bit of coital,
bit of business.
Yeah, I'll pop in, and I will, do the business. But then I'll pop out again. And it would be fantastic. I'll visit. I'll be like the milk tray man. Remember that guy that used to like swoop in wearing the turtleneck and then swoop out?
For people watching at home, whether you're the man or the woman in the relationship or same sex, whatever, it's okay to admit that it's a good setup.
I don't know if it is okay. I don't know if it is. I don't think it's the statement. It's not. Of course, I have a better night's sleep on my own. Of course, I prefer having my own bed.
But you get these people, though, that have been together for like 30, 40 years and they've been happily sleeping in separate rooms for like 25 years. And you're like, yes, that is a healthy relationship.
But I tell you why you can tell that there's an element to it, right? Because say my mates came round and they saw, say like one of my mates came round our house and he popped upstairs for some reason and he saw that there was like my room and Victoria's. I know that he'd go to our other mates. They don't sleep in the same bed.
Yeah, gossip about
it.
it
Would be a thing.
Yeah, but that's why we have these discussions out in public, We're doing this difficult convos for people.
Mate, I'm never going back. I'm never going back.
I've fully moved out. I've literally removed my clothes from the bedroom now, and I've put them in my office.
I want to do that.
My clothes are in my office now.
I want to do that.
The only awkward thing is like now when I shower and then I have to walk down. If anyone's in the house, I have to walk through the whole house, with a towel around me. Yeah. But, the other thing that is big that I've said to Alex, we will end up in the same bed again, and I'm fine with that. I am tempted to get one of those Super Kings, those big ones.
I've got one of those.
Have you? Yeah. Especially when you get all the kids in, they do look quite comfy. Yeah. But one thing I'm definitely going to do, which is all the rage at the moment, apparently it's what they do in Scandinavia, single duvets. You don't share a duvet. You have your own duvet in the same bed. Apparently it's a game changer. I've never done it. Apparently it's a game changer. You have your duvet. Victoria has her duvet.
Victoria is a massive duvet hogger as well.
There you go.
She cocoons herself, man. She leaves me with the leftovers.
Well, I haven't tried and tested it, but let us know in the chat and the comments if you have.
I don't even want to risk it. I'm just not going back in the room. I'm not going. I don't care. Nobody can make me. I love it where I am.
Well, there you go. Let us know if you're in the same boat as Rory. Have you tried the single duvet technique? I am keen to learn more. Speaking of which, this whole episode is going to be about your guys' Dad Diaries because we've had a couple guests in a row now. We haven't had a chance to talk about them. We've had loads of them coming in. Thank you. Let's chat through some of them, Rory, see if we can save some people's lives.
I mean, I definitely can.
You definitely can?
I definitely can. I'm full of wisdom, I think.
Let's see how you get on with this first one. It's a bit of a dark one, but it's, it's real life.
Okay.
Or should I say, real death. It says, "Hi guys, huge fan of the pod. Have a dad diary for you. I'm a father of 2. My son is 4. My daughter has just turned 1, similar ages to mine. My kids have a brilliant relationship with their grandparents. But over the past 2 years or so, my father has had a couple of health scares where if he was not so resilient, he wouldn't be with us. I'm glad to hear he's still with you. One fear that completely took over me was the thought that one day having to explain to the kids where people have gone to. Have either of you had to do this yet? And if not, how do you think you'd approach this? Much love." Well, you've got the oldest child. of
Yeah.
our collection. Have you had this conversation in any way?
No,
Really?
no. We've touch wood. We've been incredibly fortunate that it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened to us in a world where we'd have to have
What
that
about on
conversation.
TV? They hear about people dying and things. Like, is there no questions around that?
Yeah, I think it's come up, but it's when it's more abstract.
Mm.
So it isn't. I mean, it'd be horrific, but it isn't your grandmother or
No.
it isn't that. That it being that close, I actually don't know how we tackle that.
Well,
Have you?
So I'm wondering how this is going to play out long term. I don't know if I'm getting this right. This is me being fundamentally honest here. I have been quite open with my oldest kid, and he does give off this aura of like he can handle it. I don't know if that's led me. I don't know if I've just basically been too much of an open book with him.
Do you treat him like a peer?
Yeah, pretty much. So like he knows stuff I think that most dads wouldn't have told their 4-year-olds, and so far he's dealt with it. I mean, this was when he was 3. I was at my nan and granddad's grave, which is down the road, and I must have taken him with me. And I literally was driving in because I had to go there and do some bits. And I hadn't even thought about the fact, well, he doesn't know what this place is. What's a graveyard? Why am I talking to this stone in the ground? Like, what's going on? And I just said it. I just basically went, so my nan and granddad, you know your nanny and granddad, which are my mum and dad. Well, I have nanny and granddad as well. You never got to meet them. They're spirits now, and they live underground. And I was like, that doesn't really make sense. Obviously, spirits live underground. Yeah. And he's like, oh, right. And like, one thing we've been really good at with our kids is like impressing on them the importance of family. So like from a very young age, they knew the names of all their cousins. I'd test them on it constantly. Like they know the names of all their great grandparents, the ones they've never met. Yeah. He did get to meet a couple before they died, but he didn't remember them. But like he knows that stuff. So if I say to him, oh yeah, no, I've got my nanny June and granddad Hank, and they live underground. Like he knows those people. But it does mean that he's been familiarized with the concept of death. It hasn't caused him any as of yet, but he does like say things I kind of wish he wouldn't say sometimes. Like as a 4-year-old, I don't know. Like if he's getting a bit boisterous, and I'm like, don't do that. He's like, no, you don't do that. You do that, and I'll kill you. Yeah. I'm like, do I want a 4-year-old saying that? Probably not. Have I made that rod for my own back? Maybe I went too early.
Yeah, I've had moments like that. I don't think that's necessarily because that is just words.
But he knows kill. He understands what kill means.
Does he? What he could actually define it?
Yeah, I don't. What do you
mean by that?
Yeah, if I said to him, "What does kill mean?" He'd say like, "It means you're dead."
Right.
Which I don't think I knew at 4.
Do you know? With regard to this, I'm now actually thinking about how I would proceed, and that diary that came in there. This is a real thing that's happening in real time, and at some point, I have a 91-year-old grandmother who I was with this morning. At some point, I'm going to have this conversation. Do you know, yeah. I've just worked this out now on the spot. Having that conversation with Clementine, I think I'm going to be 100% candid. Yeah. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to traumatize her, but I'm not going to lie to her either.
I think at the age she's at, I mean, it's your choice, obviously.
6,
but
just turned 6.
So the granddad that I spoke about that we visited, he was my first grandparent to die. He died quite unexpectedly. I was 7. And we had a good relationship. And I spoke at his funeral, and I don't think I understood the full...
At 7?
Yeah, I read a little poem at his funeral. But I don't think... if I'd been older, I probably would have fixated on what that meant more. Yeah. I don't really think I knew what was going on. Yeah. I remember actually speaking at the funeral, and that went fine, because I wasn't emotional, because I didn't really know what I was doing. Yeah. But then we went to the actual grave, where when the body, the coffin actually gets put in the ground, and it dawned on me what actually was happening, and it dawned on me that my granddad was in that coffin, and I bawled my eyes out. And I remember my nan, his wife, giving me a big cuddle. So that was around 7, and that's my first, in my brain, thinking about interacting with the idea of death. And I was very lucky. My other grandparents, they all died in short succession, but not until recently. Right. So I was a proper adult for that, and I was more than capable of dealing with it. And not that it's ever easy. And touch wood, we haven't lost anyone else. Like my parents both have health conditions. I know it's something that they're thinking about a lot, unfortunately, because my dad's about to turn the age that his dad was when he died. Yeah, which was 69.
Symbolic, isn't it?
And I think he mentions it a lot. Yeah. My mum's got Parkinson's, and she's very aware that there's a deterioration potentially. They both listen to the pod, by the way, and appreciate that. But I don't know, man. I think.
Do you think
as we're getting older, so people are having kids later, right? Generally. So what it's going to mean is that more grandchildren lose their grandparents at a younger age.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that you would have that transparent conversation? Do you at the moment it's living underground and spirits? Do you think you would ever go more
At this
direct
point,
than that?
at this point of my oldest, I think I've opened Pandora's box, so to speak, already, and he's like, I could rein it back in, but I think I would go. I really hope it's not for a long time. Obviously, those conversations, but I think it would probably go in a sensitive version of the truth.
Yeah.
Maybe with the youngest, I might look at it a bit differently. But there's no right answer to it. I think you've got to look at your kids. It all depends how old they are, and I think you've got to, I think there's a loss of innocence, isn't there, at some point in childhood, which hopefully happens into your teenage years. But once you start that sort of conversation, and you're talking about, right, are they figuring out that Santa isn't real, and all these sorts of different things. Sorry if any kids watching this didn't know that already. But like, I think that you just got to choose when to start opening that box of truths, and once you do, I understand that you might have to keep telling
That
them
one,
stuff.
never.
The Santa one,
Yeah, never. That one I will never.
But they'll figure it out,
I will never admit that.
even if they're an adult. You'll be like, no, it exists.
Yeah. I kind of, things like that. I quite enjoy kidding myself even.
Fair play.
Just with things like that. I don't think you ever need to have a frank conversation.
Yeah, I remember, like, I never always misremember this, but I had this weird in my bedroom that I shared with my brother. We had this little like wardrobe that it was just a normal wardrobe, but it weirdly went through to my mum and dad's room. It's like a connecting
Narnia.
wardrobe. Yeah, it was a bit like that. So as a kid, we ended up living in this house. Me and Al, my dad still owns it. We rented it off him, and everything. You go back and everything's small. You think it's massive, but to me as a kid, this was this huge wardrobe. And one night, every Christmas, I used to sleep in weird places. Don't know why. I'm a weird kid and weird adult, and I slept in the wardrobe with the little I didn't tell anyone I was doing it apart from my brother, and it had the little
keeping an eye out
because I wanted to see Santa come in.
Keeping an eye out for the reindeer.
And what do I see? I see my dad come in.
Oh no!
3 a.m. and put all the presents down, and I'm like,
did you?
And I'm like, I want to tell everyone, because at that point, when you literally find it out, you think I thought I was the only one in the world.
Yeah. I'm
real.
the truth teller. I'm
like,
the whistleblower.
Wait, is my dad Santa or is there no Santa? Who do I talk about? I'm like, do I wake up my brother? And it was just funny, but yeah, it's a little tradition of sleeping in cupboards. But I don't think there's a right way of doing it. I think as long as you're kind and you're sensitive with the truth, and if they have a great relationship with that grandparent, for example, and suddenly they're not there, you've got to explain something, haven't you?
Yeah, of course.
But hopefully it's not something you've got to deal with for a long time.
Good luck.
And if it is, I don't know, and again, this is me thinking out loud, if it's a health condition and you have some sort of warning that they might go, maybe there is something you can do with the grandparent, and they can be part of that conversation in some way. I think it depends on the child, but
powerful.
It is very important stuff. Yeah. Next Dad Diary. Hey guys, love the pod and both of your individual work. My boyfriend and I are constantly debating the best time to have a kid and worry about all the usual stuff: housing, job, security, ages, etc. My question is, does it ever feel like the right time to start thinking about children, or is it just something you realise has got to happen at some point? Best wishes from the south side of the river.
That's very kind. It's interesting, isn't it? I'm inclined to agree with the second part of that suggestion there, which basically went, is there a good time to have a child? No, there isn't. There isn't a good time.
No.
There is potentially a bad time.
Yes.
There is potentially a bad time.
Yeah.
But there isn't ever a good time. And I think the second assertion there, which is basically it's as good a time as any and we have to just let this happen now, is certainly how I went with it.
Yeah. I mean, you say, is it something has got to happen at some point? Well, it doesn't have to happen. I'm assuming that you guys are on board and you both want it to happen, obviously, and therefore a good time could become a bad time. Do you know what I mean? You could be perfectly prepped and something happens. Life is unpredictable. It's chaos in its nature.
But there is never a good. Do you know? It's such a destabilizing. It's a magnificent thing. It's a wonderful. It's a joyful experience. But it will knock you for six like you won't believe. There's never a good time.
No, exactly. And like I say,
six.
you could be planned. Everything could be perfect. You could have the job that's perfect, and then you could lose it during the pregnancy.
Yeah.
This is life. Vice versa, you could think it's the worst time and you weren't expecting, but you fall pregnant, decide to go through with it, and suddenly everything starts happening. Like a bit like what happened to you. You said,
yeah.
So like, I wouldn't overthink it. I think it's more about where are you in your life? What have you done that you want to do? How important to you is it to have children at that point? We've had Danny Aarons on, who's obviously going to be a young dad. Personally, I think like everything in life, there is a give and take. There is a trade-off. So if you have a young kids, there's the downside. There's the downside that you miss out on a lot of stuff. The upside is you get your freedom back way earlier, and vice versa. If you don't have kids till really late, you get to have an amazing 20s and 30s from a selfish perspective. but you're never going to see your kids grow old necessarily. So there is no right or wrong. There's just what's right for you.
There is one thing though that I think you have to be as solid as you possibly can be with your co-parent.
Your partner, yeah.
That's the only thing where I would say, if you've got that, if you can look yourself in the mirror and say that you totally adore your co-parent, then great, then go for it. If you're not pulling in the same direction there, it's just all going to be exacerbated massively by the time you have a kid.
100%, yeah. You got to be strong because it's going to test you. I don't know if that helps you really that much with your question, but like it will come. There will come a time.
Just go for it.
There will come a time when the positives outweigh the negatives. Ultimately, that's the time to pounce. What is it? I can't remember who said this, but it's not about being 100% sure because you're never going to be. No. It's about being 51.
Yeah,
become 51% sure. Sounds like something Desiree would say. And I'm not a big Margaret Thatcher fan, by the way, but it's the second time I'm going to quote Margaret Thatcher. I'm actually the opposite politically of Margaret Thatcher. But my dad was a bit of a Thatcherite, and he often quotes her and says, what she used to do? Make your mind up quickly, change it slowly.
Yeah.
So apparently she had some good...
Any other Thatcher quotes there?
I don't know. Destroy the coal mines?
She certainly said that.
Let's not get political, but I'm not a Thatcherite, by the way. I'm a socialist, like Karl Marx. Right. Dad Diary 3 for you here. I have a 4-month-old with my partner who suffers from Crohn's and was very poorly during pregnancy. After an emergency C-section, she was quite poorly afterwards as well. But you'd be glad to hear 4 months down the line, mum and baby are doing well. Great news. However, because of her being so ill during pregnancy, intimacy completely disappeared from our relationship. Since then, I've struggled to feel connected to my partner. How did you guys rebuild this intimacy in your relationships after having children, both in and outside of the bedroom?
That's a very powerful dad diary, isn't it?
It's a very honest and open one. They're my favourites.
Yeah, I mean, look, in terms of building it back up, obviously it takes a hit. I mean, it certainly has for me. Like Pandora is for nearly a month. Well, no, just over a month. Yeah, I'm still in spare room. There's just no time for that, and there is no time for that intimacy. What there is, though, which I can't say it makes up for the lack of intimacy, but what it does do is help. There is like a connection, an emotional connection that we have. Look, the physical connection isn't there because there's just no time. I'm doing the nights, or Victoria's doing the nights. We're not in the same room.
Yeah.
But when when I look at her and she's like, I feel a connection and a love, which can almost go beyond that.
It's way beyond that, and the appreciation is massively multiplied. And I think like I had a similar instance with Alex. Actually, both pregnancies. First one, we were not told we couldn't have sex because of cervical stitch. And the second time, Al was really ill for a lot of it. So she wasn't in the mood, quite frankly. That did pass eventually. But if you do have that and you have that lack of intimacy in the pre-baby stage as well, it becomes a little bit of a double effect, doesn't it? Because you're definitely not going to have too much post-delivery. You've got to give a couple months, especially if it's... if it's a traumatic birth or if it's a C-section, whatever. Like it's just one of them where you, depending on how long that period is, you just got to look for that in other ways. Like Rory said, you're looking for your love and your appreciation to grow whilst maybe your intimacy is dropping off, and make sure when things are good again and you're healthy and you're ready to go, you start to do things that foster it. I know for women particularly, and I can't speak for them here, but just based on my observations, like particularly when you become a mum for the first time, I think you can really struggle with that and you lose a sense of yourself. You feel like you have a real lack of independence, a lack of things you're doing for your own like life. Whether that might just be little things like Alex likes to get out to Pilates or do some yoga and all things like that. And you need to try and get them that. Yeah. Because then they start to feel like themselves again and then they start to put themselves first. And that has to come from the dad as much as the mum, because you've got to allow them to do that.
Yeah.
And you've got to maybe encourage them. Sometimes they need a bit of a pep talk. Like sometimes Al needs me to sort of push her in a certain direction to say, look, you should do this for yourself. Like that holiday she took, I had to tell her to do that.
It's so hard though, Spencer, because like I'm seeing it a bit with Victoria at the moment. Like she's so devoted to both of our children, but she's so devoted, especially at the moment, to Pandora because their bond is so secure and Pandora is so needy for Victoria. Literally has to be Victoria. All Pandora really wants is to be attached.
Yeah.
I can do the nights, and we're doing that combination feeding. So there's breastfeeding, and then through the night I do the bottles.
Yeah.
But through the day she will just be attached to Victoria. If I say to Victoria, look, why don't I take the day? Why don't I do this day, or even just a couple of hours this day, and I'll do some bottle feeding? She's quite reluctant.
No, I know.
It's hard, isn't it? Because she feels, she doesn't really want her to be on the bottles too much where possible.
And there's a lot of pressure on the mums, all this, like I say, Alex has done at least, I think, a year. Well, no, So first, with our oldest, I think it was 6 months before we did any formula. And then with our youngest, I was looking to try and go a year, which we're like 9, 10 months into now. And just to say, it's absolutely fine. People that don't do that. When we did formula with our oldest, like, it's not...
What did you do with your oldest? You did combination?
Yeah, we did combination. Not from day one. We didn't introduce the formula, I don't think, until 6 months. Al probably tell me I'm getting that wrong, but that's my memory. I know Al took it on the one for the team, with the breastfeeding. And that is to say,
so she just did the breastfeeding through the night and the day.
Yeah, right now that's what she's doing with our youngest, and she's 9, 10 months into that. That's why I'm saying, I can't help as much. The other thing with Alex is she doesn't like expressing very much. When you do the pump.
There's Victoria.
So I say to her sometimes, look, just pump and then go and have a night off. Yeah. But sometimes we've had issues where I'm left on child control, but she hasn't. I haven't got the hours. I massively support her decision to go exclusive breastfeeding. I think it's an amazing thing to do.
Noble,
but I would never tell her she had to do it.
No,
because it's not my place to say. And also, the reality of that is it's a very lonely experience for her, because if I'm looking after the kids and the youngest goes mad, I can't give him it.
No, I know.
I'm literally told I'm not allowed to give him formula. So and that's what they want a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So it's a massive decision for the mum to take, and I respect mums that do and mums that don't. Mad respect to Alex for what she's done, and things your body goes through as a result as well. But
we've gone on to this, and I'm now hijacked this Dad Diary because I find this quite interesting. But
it's a lot of pressure on the mum, isn't it? Because what you're saying is completely logical.
Yeah.
Have a day off, let me do that. And if Victoria was thinking purely selfishly, she would just go, yes, great idea, I'm off to the spa.
Yeah.
But she's going, and this is some of that pressure, you have to just find a way to alleviate it from them, because part of her will probably be saying I can't do a day where he has, she has, all formula that day or whatever. That's where I think you've got, this is by no means me knowing any better than you, but I think that's where we have got to sort of identify what's the greater good.
Please, because I basically insisted on doing the combination so that I could do the nights.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, Victoria is just doing it all.
I know. So, that's what I was doing now.
People, the chat about feeding is quite an important one. People get very precious about it.
It is, jarring for some people because they don't want to be. It's the same as the homeschool thing we talked about before. I feel like I caveat everything I say quite a lot by saying don't judge anyone, do it your way. I'm just very open with my perspective.
Yeah.
And the homeschooling thing jars a lot of people because some of them maybe think we're nutcases for considering it. Fine. I've got no problem with someone having that opinion for me. But some people really don't like being presented with what could be a good argument for it because they feel like they're failing if they're not doing it. And that's not the case. If I was had a normal, I was a doctor or a teacher or one of these jobs, I couldn't consider it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't allow for it's just because of my situation. But
interesting.
It's good stuff for sure. Another Dad Diary for us here. Hey lads, wishing you all the best for this new venture. In 4 weeks, I'm about to become a dad for the first time at 28 years old. I have a slight worry about it. Usually I am a very take it as it comes kind of lad, and I'll just get on with things. But the thought of changing nappies has got me stressed. I have a very bad reaction to strong smelling things. For example, sulfur or poo in this case. It will make me gag and will have me on the verge of vomiting if I'm around the smell too long. I don't want to make my wife change them all because that seems unfair, but I just don't know if I'll be able to do it. Do you have any advice, or is it not as bad as people make out? That is such an honest Dad Diary, I've got to say, because some people are going to just mug you off for that so hard.
And mate, it's fine. This is one, I can totally empathise with that because I was that guy.
Really?
I was terrified. Yeah, I was terrified. I don't ever discuss that. I don't
like it.
I don't like the chat. I don't find jokes.
When we did our photo
funny.
shoot for this, we had Nutella.
I didn't like it. I don't know. I don't find.
That's why I had the nappy on me.
I don't find that sort of that kind of humour. I don't find it funny. I don't know why. I've always just been quite particular and quite precious around that, and I was quite worried. And I can totally put your mind at rest because when it comes along, I am now like the king of nappies. I'm not joking. I found my skill in life. I am elite at changing it. I swear to you, I can do it. I reckon I could do it perfectly, spotless, so clean, so get it.
You
tied
reckon
away.
you are
20 seconds.
You know, would you if it was
Top-
a London, if
top
it was a
1%.
London championship?
Oh no, I'd win.
You
I'd
think
win.
you'd win.
I am the
UK?
best. No, not UK. Worldwide.
Worldwide
there
nappy
isn't.
champ.
You would
Fair play.
do really well to find somebody better at changing nappies than me. It's my skill.
Speed, technique, everything.
Technique, dedication.
What about this? Enjoyment of the experience, the nappier. Is the baby
she
enjoying
doesn't know
this
it's happening
experience? Because
she thinks she's in a spa. She's
Wow,
like a spa
that's-
hotel. Mate,
that's very good.
she's basically in the Corinthia Hotel in central London. She thinks that she is in a spa.
no
retreat.
tears, nothing.
Mate, I'm so good at it.
Yeah, but I think sometimes babies just hate, like when they feel if you're undressing them, for example.
I warm up
Once they take
I warm it up a bit though. I
yours is
warm up the
proper,
thing.
like,
Yeah, mate. I honestly,
5-star.
this is my and I used to be quite fearful. Like, do you know what? I love animals. I don't have a dog because I can't do that. I really don't want to pick it. Yeah, I'm not doing that. It really puts me off the idea of having a dog. One day I will overcome this, but at the moment I just don't quite, can't quite get my head around that. Trust me, dear sir, who is worried about this, when it happens, you will become so not offended by it because it isn't offensive. It's your baby. It's fine.
Yeah, I hear
like,
that.
you know, when I first, like, as a concept, it terrifies me. Now, I could do some juggling with it. I don't
It'd
care.
be interesting to see if that's the same for everyone. Like, because I'd love to ask my brother about that. My older brother, he used to have a terrible gag reflex
Yes,
to the
I do.
point where I remember once he was at uni and I must have been at school and I went up to pick him up to take him home, and he was moving out of this flat and he had this fridge. And this fridge, a uni fridge,
Yeah, horrible.
not
Yeah,
looked
yeah,
after,
yeah.
and it had the most disgusting stuff. And I had to clean it for him because he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. I'd have to pick up dog poos for him. We had dogs. I mean, we'll get him on the pod one day. He fainted during his first child's
Did he?
delivery. Like, he had multiple things like that. I mean, I would say, like, by the way, he's not like someone that shirks difficult stuff. He's a good lad and a battler. He just has this gag. So I do know there's people that have that.
Yeah, yeah.
If I was to guess, I think he's probably got rid of that now because I've never heard of him having. I've seen him change nappies and things. So maybe what you've experienced is consistent. People just, as you become a dad, there's like this evolution that happens. So I've never struggled with that stuff. That's one of my strong suits, I'd say. Like, I'm very good at all the. I mean, I had to kill a mouse the other day. It's pretty brutal.
No, I'm never doing that.
Done that quite a few times. Rats, anything creepy crawly, I'm good at. Like, I've grown up with dogs, so I'm always good at the poo stuff. Like, I don't change loads of nappies, if I'm honest, this time round. And that's really, I maybe should do more, but that's probably more because of the sort of way that we're sharing the kids' responsibilities. But first time round, I was changing them a lot.
That's why I do the nappies, though, I think, because it's the one thing that I feel like the ratio of what Victoria does compared to what I do is obviously so stacked in her favor. I don't know, 80-20, 90-10.
It's an easy win.
I'll just go, if the nappy needs doing, I go, look, for 5 minutes or 20 seconds because I'm so good at it, but I go, you sit there and I'll do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can alleviate any concern, any fear. You're going to be just fine because when it comes around and it's your baby, you will not be offended by anything that your baby does.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I think the other thing, like, I used to think is, like, I think this is a bit of a generational thing maybe, and maybe a result of different industries, different trades. But you know how, like, generally dads just always know how to, like, fix stuff around the house and all that sort of thing.
I can't do anything.
I used to be like, I like all that stuff now. During COVID, I bought myself a full set of, like, power tools and, like, got into all that sort of stuff. And I will take on probably 50% of the DIY stuff around the house, the stuff that isn't big stuff that maybe we get someone in to do. But I used to be very hopeless at that. Right. And I'd be like, what happens? Do you just, like, become a dad and you suddenly know how to use a drill? Whatever. And it doesn't. You just rack up the experience. You take certain challenges on. I think also it's like my dad was an engineer. Like, so you have certain skills that I've not got a trade like that. So I have to spend my personal time learning those things. But my point is that I do think when you become a dad, you just have this newfound enthusiasm for doing the things that you probably thought you'd never do
that
before.
Hasn't come from me yet. I'd say 20% of my disposable income goes on task.
Really?
Yeah, I get that.
You know what I love?
Some fella comes round.
I love anything to do with gardening. Like, I love, if someone said to me they've got like just bought a house and it's full of all this trash in the garden and these bushes, I'd be like, yeah, get me around. I'll bring all my gear. I've got chainsaws. I've cut trees down. I love that. I love the idea of clean up a garden. If anyone needs that. But I've got one story for you. You won't believe this. This is an example of how weird I am. Like, I do stuff that I think is making me a good lad, and I take on so much more than I need to do. So, a couple years ago, summer, we have a blocked toilet, right? You know, it's not flushing. It's a problem.
Yeah.
I think it might have been COVID at the time. So everyone was in that, like, let's learn how to do stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted to go and buy a farm and live off the land and all this sort of thing, like everyone did. So I need to start learning this stuff. So no, I'm not going to call anyone out. I'm going to get on the internet, figure out what's going on. Cool. I need to get myself some dino rods. No problem. Down to B&Q. Get myself some dino rods. These are rods you put together. You put in the sewers to find any blockers. Pull my sewer up. Figure it all out. Cool. Now, if I've got one criticism of myself here is that I do sometimes skim instructions a little bit. Maybe don't read them all the way around. But anyway, fundamentally, I understand. I've got a sewer. Next house has got one that way. Work out what way the sewer is with the rods. Poke it down. Release the blockage. Job's a good one. Crucial bit of information here, people, that I cannot impress enough how important it is. Please take this from this video, if nothing else. It's very important that you poke in the direction of travel. So, for example, if you have 5 houses in a row and my house was the end of the road, which was the end of the sewage pipeline, you have to point the pipe in the direction that the water should be flowing normally. Right. You never go against the grain. I did not read that part of the instruction manual. So what I ended up doing was poking from so I worked out the blockage.
So you're going down your own toilet here?
This is in the garden. This is where the drain, I've opened up the drain.
What are you getting involved
right? So I've got my big dino rod. So I'm not going from the toilet, I'm going from the drain. But I'm the end drain, right? So let's say you're my neighbour. You're in the garden next door. Yeah. If they ever watch this, by the way, they know about it, trust me. So I put my drains down, and what I should have done is gone into their garden, poked down, because I'm going in the direction of travel, towards my pipe. Oh, there's a blockage there. Poked the thing through. Everything would have been fine. You then go down, you get the blockage thing out. Sometimes it's tissue. Sometimes someone's flushed a nappy or something, like whatever. I am poking towards your house, which is not the right direction of the pipes, and I feel the blockage. So, I don't know this information at this point that I shouldn't poke that way. So I poke. I'll keep poking. Poke. What happens? I poke, and an eruption of volcanic shit starts coming out of my next door neighbour's
You're like
pipes.
Tim Robbins in the Shawshank Redemption.
Literally, poo is just coming out like this, like a volcano. And I'm like, there's no way back from this. And this is a very important moment in my life. This happened, right? I had to make a decision. Because I'm not talking like a little bit of poo. I'm talking like, it was a really hot day as well.
Oh, mate.
And we're talking about circumference, probably about, a couple feet wide, where their garden has been ruined with that much poo on their garden. And worst bit about it is it's probably my poo as well,
God,
right?
Mate.
So I should have done a trigger warning for anyone before we got into this section.
Yeah, for me.
Basically, I have a decision to make. No one's in their house. No one's in at my house. I can literally wrap up my dino rods, stick them back in the shed, pretend it never happened. No one will ever know. And I seriously considered this. Bear in mind, at this point, I didn't really know these neighbours that well. We'd never really spoken. And after a few minutes of thinking very hard about it and having a crisis of confidence, I decided, no, that's not what a good man would do. So I jumped into their garden and started shoveling my own shit back into a wheelbarrow. Slowly but surely. And this is liquid. This is hot day. It's drying. I'm getting it all over me.
Where are you going with the wheelbarrow?
Back into my garden. I'll figure out what to do with it when I get back to mine. I ended up pouring it down the drain. But the worst bit is the neighbours came home in the middle of it. I am in their garden. Literally, they barely know me. They walk in and they're like, what is going on?
And I'm like, off YouTube's doing something really weird in our garden.
I've got a lot to talk to you about, guys. Long story short, this is my poo. It shouldn't be in your garden, but it's my fault. I tried to be a hero, trying to learn about pipes. I learned the hard way, so I'm trying to fix the problem.
I didn't even know that it was legal for you to, the drains and that. I didn't know that anybody's allowed to lift that. Well, I thought it was like the government. So
it turns out where I live, we have Anglian water, and if you just ring them, they'll come and fix it for free. That's the worst bit about it. I could have just rung them and they'd have fixed it for free.
Mate, why are you doing that?
So I did it, and at first my neighbours were a little bit like, what are you doing? You're a mentalist. And I think eventually they were like, they could see that what it took for me to actually go into their garden and try and fix the problem was ultimately a good thing to do. Yeah. So we actually started to have some sort of relationship.
There's a lesson in that. Don't try and fix things that you are not capable of doing. It's one of my best skills in life. Recognise your limitations.
Or read the instructions.
All of the above.
Read the instructions and do what they tell you to do. No shortcuts. And then it would have been fine. But yeah, you're probably right. But we're going to wrap up the episode, Rory. This is like a Dad Diary special. But lots of good stuff in there. We'll be back next week with more.
It's been very enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm very much enjoying you guys sending in your
Dad
stuff.
Diaries. Thank you to everybody, by the way. They've been so good.
Keep them coming across the board at Internet Dads Pod. All platforms. We do appreciate it. And wherever you're watching and or listening, leave a comment, leave a like. Make sure you're following. We love it all. And we will see you on the next one.